Hi, everybody. This is Vinny, and welcome to Complain Time. This is a show where we take a moment while the boss is out of the office to talk about things that really, just quite frankly, annoy us to death. Because you know what they say: when the cat's away, the mice will play. Or in this case, complain about stuff that just drives us all crazy. Now, before we go any further, I want to give you guys an opportunity to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Complaint Time, as well as other additional HVMA content. Now, today's topic that I want to get into, something that really gets on my nerves: rude bosses. Now, before I go any further with this, I need to include a disclaimer to avoid any confusion. When I refer to rude bosses, my boss, my current boss, does not, I repeat, does not fall into that category. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. I'm saying it because it's true. He isn't a rude boss at all. In fact, he's one of the nicest, most approachable bosses I've ever had in my life. And if he was a rude boss, I would tell you guys, because as I just said, he's out of the office. So he's not even hearing this conversation. So what reason do I really have to lie? The answer? I have none. No reason to lie about it. Now, that being said, I have dealt with rude bosses and other jobs I've had in the past. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. Hell, some of y'all are probably dealing with one right now as you're watching this video. And we all know that feeling when we're dealing with a boss who has no business being your boss. Every day you look at this disrespectful sack of dumb and you think to yourself, why am I listening to this epic fail of a human being? And in my lifetime, I've dealt with every type of rude boss you can imagine. I'm going to break them all down. The first one I've had is the passive-aggressive boss. Y'all know this boss. The one who can yell and scream at everyone, but lacks the courage to confront you one-on-one. Y'all remember those guys, I'm sure. I remember one time I had a boss, years ago, who walked right up to me and asked me how my day was. I answered him, and we ended up having a decent conversation for a few minutes. We're talking back and forth, we're laughing, we're joking, we're having a good time. We're literally having like a bonding moment here. And he walks away to go take care of some work, as bosses do. He's got to get back to running the store. And then about 10 minutes later, his dummy, dunce, douchebag subordinate comes over to me. You know what I mean? This type of person where when they talk to you, you can't understand a word they say because their tongue is numb from being stuck inside the boss's butt all day. You know, that kind of subordinate, that guy. Oh, we've all met that guy, haven't we? And he proceeds to tell me how the boss isn't happy with my job performance. A few things I've done around the store that the boss is apparently not happy about. Now, I'll admit, I'm a hard worker, but I'm not perfect. Obviously, at any job, there is room for improvement in whatever you're doing. And a good boss will tell you what those areas are and do it in a professional and constructive way. So my problem here isn't that the boss didn't like my job performance. It was the fact that he had just had a conversation with me. I just spoke to this guy, and at no point in time did he have the balls to tell me any of this. Instead, he sent his little despicable me minion to do it for him. And that pisses me off because I don't like people that go behind my back and talk about me. If you got a problem with me, no matter who you are, man up and tell me to my face. Any boss that can't talk to his employees and has to send a stooge to do his bidding is a coward. I don't necessarily hate bosses that do this, but I damn sure don't respect them. You got a problem with me? You come talk to me. That stooge ain't me. You know where I am. You just spoke to me. Tell me. As long as you're nice and constructive about it, I'll listen. I'll adjust whatever problems we're having if I feel they're reasonable. Now, if I feel strongly about something, I will speak my mind. But at the end of the day, if the boss tells me, no, you're doing this, well, then I guess I'm doing it or I'm getting fired, aren't I? So just talk to me. Don't send a stooge. I have no respect for bosses that do that. If you don't have the time to sit down with an employee and talk to them about what their problem is, that means you don't care. Why am I, and if I'm not important, then why am I here? That would be my question to any boss. If you can't sit down with me one-on-one and tell me what the problem is, why am I here? Again, that's why my boss doesn't fall into this category. Because anytime my boss has had an issue with something I've done or wants to change something, he tells me. He does it one of two ways. He either calls me into his office and we talk face to face, or he sends me a message through WhatsApp. But either way, he's still talking to me. He doesn't find somebody else in the office and says, hey, can you go tell Vinny what this problem is? No, he comes to me. And I didn't have to tell him that. He just does it. That's a good boss. We talk. And again, on times where I might disagree with something he says, I speak up, and I'm always professional while I do it. And he's professional when he does it. So it works. That is a pet peeve I have. Now, I can go on about this one all day, but I don't have all day. I do have a job to get back to. Second, of course, is the manipulative boss. Now, this is probably the hardest of all the rude bosses to deal with. Because at least with the other types of rude bosses, you see them coming. And you can prepare yourself to deal with them. But if you have a boss that is a master of manipulation, you can't really prepare for it because most times you don't see it coming until it's too late. I had a job one time that was one of my dream jobs in life. And at the time, my boss had me believing we were a team on the many projects we were doing. But the truth is, there was an I in this team, and it wasn't me. And I found out about a year into the job that this boss was more concerned about his interests than mine, and had me doing different jobs in different departments, none of which I was qualified to do and none of which I wanted to do. But my boss didn't care. All my boss cared about was getting the job done, and he was getting it done at my expense. And as a result, my career goals took serious damage. And even to this day, I still haven't fully recovered from it. The worst part about this type of boss is that at first, when you're given so much to do, you see it as a compliment because this person trusts and depends on you, so you feel like you're doing a good thing. But it's not until you realize what you lost in the process and the fact that there is little to no payoff in the work that you're doing that you realize you're being taken advantage of. And it's even worse when you're someone who is uncomfortable with speaking up about how you feel. And I know this because at the time that I had this job, believe it or not, I was that type of person. And it was the experience I had at that job that has made me speak up more when I'm not comfortable with something. It's part of the reasons why if you're on my personal Facebook page, you see me posting about how I don't take crap from people anymore, or I don't lower my standards for people anymore. I don't try to be accommodating as much as I used to be anymore because I got tired of being taken advantage of. And it was the experience from that job and having a manipulative boss. The third boss in this saga is the unfocused boss. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I have the attention span of a gerbil. I can sometimes get distracted and, squirrel. Oh, there's a squirrel. Run, little squirrel, run, run, run. No, don't let the dog eat you. Run, run, get the tree, climb the tree, climb the tree. All right, he made it. Okay, anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, unfocused boss. I can tell you right now, the most irritating part of any job I ever had was when I had a boss whose attention span was shorter than mine. Especially when they ask for my advice on something, I give it and they don't implement it. Or they forget to implement it and a good idea goes right down the drain. And then they're upset about it when the whole thing was their fault. I've also had situations where almost every boss I've had, except for this one, and circle, underscore, highlight the words, except for this one. Again, my current boss does not apply here. Where he would give me a task or an assignment to do. I go do it, and while I'm in the middle of doing it, they come and give me a completely different task to do. And I explain to them I'm not done yet with task number 1, but yet they say task number 2 is more important. This has to be done now. Then you start working on task number 2, and then they have the audacity to come up to you and get upset because task number 1 isn't finished yet. It's like, look, Michael Keaton in Multiplicity, I can't be in 50 places at once. I know that's a secret fantasy that you have in this dream world you created that you're holding us all hostage in, but it ain't possible. So pick a project and stick with it because you drive us all insane with your stupid, pointless, unrealistic expectations. I swear to God, if I still had hair, I'd be pulling it out. Actually, here's a little secret. You want to know how I went bald? From years of doing this. What do you want from me? But I digress. On that note, we move on to boss number 4. Now, on a personal note for me, this is the worst boss of them all. I have dealt with several of these in my lifetime. Again, excluding this one. And I have hated and despised every single solitary one of them. And that would be the micro-manager boss. These bosses are a gift from Satan himself. And I am not talking about the cool one, like from Lucifer on Netflix. I'm talking about the bad one, like from Supernatural. The reason I hate these types of bosses so much is because I know the reason that they micromanage. And the reason is because they want to feel important and throw their weight around. They want to go on an ego power trip. And most of the jobs I've worked in my life, I was the best one there. Not bragging, just stating facts. And I knew what I was doing, but it wasn't exactly the way this particular little pissant wanted it done. They felt the need to bug me every so often. They would bug me, just keep annoying me. Now, I can understand micromanaging somebody if they're terrible at their job and need constant supervision. But if you got an employee who is getting the job done, and everyone likes, even if he's marching to the beat of his own drum, which is what I do, leave them alone. Just sit back and count your money. Don't worry about if he's following some BS script in an employee manual. Don't worry if they're following a rule that even the managers themselves don't follow, which I've experienced many times over. Micromanaging doesn't make you a good boss. It makes you a pain in the butt that nobody wants to work for, least of all me. Now, the final boss, and I love how all the video gamers are going excited when I say that. The final boss I'll talk about today, and for the rest of you, this is the worst boss of them all. The put down boss. These are the type of bosses that the best way to deal with them is to go find another job, and then once you've officially hired, walk into their office, and before you quit, just crack them right in the jaw. I definitely had some bosses like this in my lifetime. And the fact that they were female is the only reason I'm not in prison right now. If a man had spoke to me the way these female managers spoke to me, I'd be in prison. I'd be in prison. Some of y'all might think I'm joking. A lot of you know I'm not. Because they were the most rudest, condescending, disrespectful Karens I ever met in my life. In fact, the only difference between them and actual Karens is they didn't ask to speak to the manager because they were the manager. And I'm not going to lie, there were times when they spoke to me that it took every ounce of strength I had not to smash their faces into the counter of my register. In fact, there were times where I had dreams at night. I would either daydream at work or be asleep at night, and I would dream of them being rude and disrespectful to me, and me picking up my scan gun and just pistol whipping the crap out of them, like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas when he cracks the butt of the gun against that dude's face and goes, "If you touch her again, you're dead!" You know that scene? Bosses like that don't deserve to be bosses. And in the long run, their business isn't going to last. Because once that type of reputation gets out, nobody's going to work for them, no matter how much money you pay them. Now, I get it. Who's. Now, I get it. In some cases, there can be misunderstandings. Some bosses have this type of behavior, but they mean well and just want to be successful. And sometimes, if you're able to talk to them about these problems, if you're able to speak to them, they are open and willing to change. And they can become good bosses over time. But there's also a lot that aren't. And if you meet one like that who is set in their ways, you got to get the hell out of there. You have to leave. Because in the long run, it's going to affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, and in some cases, financially. Also, if you're a boss and you're watching this video and you exhibit any of these kinds of behavior, of rude behavior, I leave you with two choices. Either A, get it together, or B, get bent. Well, anyway, I can see my boss is making his way up the stairs, and of course I mean the good one. So that'll conclude Complain Time for today. So before you guys go, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Complain Time, as well as other additional HVMA content. Check back soon for a new episode, and until then, stay social.